Hey folks, welcome back to another edition of Sideshow TV. Recently, our good friend Craig Kyle stopped by to tell us all about his creation, X23.
X23 was the solution to a problem. I was working on the animated series X-Men Evolution, and in that series, the classic X-Men we know were largely kids, teenagers. Cyclops, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, Kitty Pryde, but Wolverine in this scenario was an adult. And what Marvel was hoping to do was find a way to integrate Wolverine more into the story that we had, and you couldn't have a season end and come back and go, Wolverine, hey guys, look what happened, I'm a kid. So I had to find a way to integrate him more into the storylines without making him all of a sudden 15 years old. As I did research, I've been an X fan since I was 12, you quickly realize it's very tough to better or improve on Wolverine. It's why he's so popular, he's a tremendous character. But what I did find was in his past, there were pockets, corners where potentially stories still existed. And going back to the Weapon X, one of the most famous sagas in his life, I asked the question, basically if you can't improve on Wolverine, maybe you should just do him again. But we don't need another boy with claws that is a feral, and I mean, that's been done and perfected. So the solution I thought of is, okay, what if something got out? Wolverine escaped, but what if the project continued? And there were a group of people who had genetic samples of Wolverine who continued to try to recreate him, but like myself, couldn't do it. He's already been perfected. So what I decided was, when Wolverine in his character made a right, I'll make a left. So instead of him being a boy, it's a girl. Instead of being a man who's older than we even realize, it's a girl and she's very young. He was someone at the time who still didn't have any memory of his past. He was a mystery. Well, she was someone who only remembered what she had done, all the horrible crimes and murders and things she had committed. She had lived with that her whole existence. Wolverine got out, she didn't. She grew up and was raised in this program. So for everything that he was, she wasn't. And at the time, I thought she could answer questions that Wolverine couldn't. Because he had had kind of a clean slate, not knowing who he was able to become a hero and find a life, and although he's a dark character, there was a way for him to build a new life, where she's asking the question, knowing what I've been my whole existence, do I still have a shot at being something else? And in her essence, she's Pinocchio. She's Marvel's Pinocchio. She's a samurai sword who's desperate to become a little girl. And although her mother, her creator, Dr. Sarah Kinney, believes she can be that, I think that's still a big question mark in her life. And even I don't know if she can be. Besides coming up with a place for X23 to have come from, being the product of this facility, I needed to figure out again, why is she different than Wolverine? Because a character with claws has already been done so well. And part of it needed to be physiology. Nature finds a way. And what I was hinting at with the 2 claws in her hands and 1 claw in her foot was nature's way. Wolverine wasn't just a mutant, he was almost the dawn of a new species. And males, if you think about them as lions in the wild, males protect the herd, the pack. They hunt and kill the lions, they fight off hyenas. They're the ones who ensure that the pride is protected. The females have two jobs equally important. One is to hunt. So they would be pack hunters, and they would go out in the wild, they would stalk prey, and they would kill. And their hand claws are for the aggressive, proactive attack. The foot claw is a defensive weapon, so that if they are caught in the wild and they're being overwhelmed, they have another weapon they can slash at the belly or the bladders of their attackers and find a way to escape. And that's why she's not so much a clone as she is his sister, because there is some genetics in there that are not purely taken from Wolverine. And we've been very precious, we've been very protective of her. We wanted to make sure she was real defined, because we don't want her in, saber-toothed costumes and growling and acting like Wolverine. She's not ever supposed to be that. She's a robot, where he's an attack dog. She is a machine. She thinks about the kill. She is tactical and strategic. She thinks like a human second, and never like an animal. She's just not that way. So it's always important to keep that uniqueness clear. Otherwise, you just have Wolverine with lady parts. And that was never her intention. She's supposed to be the opposite. He's a wild animal, she's a robot. And as she evolves, I hope she can become more and more like a human, but even as we see her evolve, she still finds her most comfortable places when she's murdering. And that's the tragedy of her life. It's the human scenarios and emotions that just tear her apart. She's the flip side to a character that so many love, but I think she also is an important piece to his story and vice versa. I would say, and again, selfishly so, she deepens Wolverine as a character because you get to see so much more of him that you couldn't without her. And I feel, as many fans do, fortunately, that she's a unique and interesting part of the Marvel Universe that needs to be there and deserves to be there.